SPR Live FM, Fun City Radio FM, Success Radio, the Praise Life Morning Show.
Hello, my name is Nancy Komi, and I'm with Epilepsy of Southern Western Ontario. This whole entire month of March, we are doing giveaways and prizes to be won. If you wear the color purple, because purple is our color, you can do hashtag Purple Nation and send a picture of yourself to your local epilepsy organization, or you can go to Epilepsy of Southern Western Ontario website and send your picture and make sure that you enter into the prizes that are being won each and every week. And as well, make sure you purchase your ticket for our virtual gala on March 26th. Thank you very much for your time.
24 hours a day, 7 days a week, you can enjoy an inspirational word, commentary, special interviews, and a whole lot of gospel music from Streaming Praise Radio, SBR Live.
Once again, as I told you before, we'll be speaking to a young lady, Nancy Komi, who is a mother, a teacher, and also she has a child who suffers from epilepsy. And as we know, this month is also Epilepsy Awareness Month. What is epilepsy? It's a central nerve system neurological disorder in which brain activity becomes abnormal, causing seizures or periods of unusual behavior, sensations, and sometimes loss of awareness. Anyone can develop epilepsy. Epilepsy affects both male and female of all races, ethnic backgrounds, and ages. And today I want to introduce you to none other than Nancy. Good morning, Nancy. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Again, for the folks who may remember, I interviewed Nancy sometime last year pertaining to going back to school. How did it affect your teaching and things like that? How is that going so far for you?
So far, good morning to all, by the way. All is going well. Can't really complain. So,
are you back in class again, or are you?
I am back in class. I'm back in class. I think we were back the first week of February.
Oh, okay. Okay.
We're back, yeah.
Now, for those of you folks who don't know, Nancy lives in London, Ontario. Not London, England, London, Ontario, which is right here in Canada, right here in Ontario. Some of us, and today is our day when we officially reopen. Well, not quite. Some of the restrictions are off. We're into the gray zone. I don't quite understand what the gray zone is and what the red zone is. I mean, red I would think is danger, and gray is like, we're coming out of danger, but I guess, I don't know. Anyways, so much for that. It's confusing to me, and I just don't bother with it anymore. I live. Nancy, I saw a post of yours that brought my interest and wanted to talk to you about this topic of epilepsy. Now, I had friends at home that I remember having this kind of condition, and we used to call it fits. Okay. And I think that was an inappropriate word for it because none of us knew what it was, and it was the most scariest thing to see and to watch. And I understand that you have a child that also suffers from that, and hence the reason why I think you're the perfect person to talk to concerning this situation. So tell me a little bit about yourself first, and then tell me a little bit about your child who suffers from this.
All right, thank you. I will try my best to explain it to the best of my knowledge so that everyone can understand. So my name is Nancy Komi, and I'm a mother of two. I am an educator. I teach kindergarten, and as well as I'm a hairstylist, and I wear many hats, basically. So my daughter suffers from epilepsy, and it started at the age of 9 months. So a baby. And when her seizures started, it was a febrile seizure. So febrile seizures basically meaning she had high fevers. So whenever she had high fevers, a seizure came along with it, and that's how it started. Then she got diagnosed at 1 year old that she has epilepsy, and we don't really say epileptic anymore. That's something that I also had to learn, because I used to say that, oh, my daughter's epileptic, or I know a friend who's epileptic, but actually apparently that is the wrong terminology to use. You just say epilepsy, so you don't say epileptic.
Oh, so okay. Now, how traumatic was it for you? I mean, here it is. Your daughter is 9 months old, and you're seeing this before your eyes. What was that like?
It was scary, actually. When she had her first seizure, I was actually doing someone's hair at my house. So, and she was asleep on her little mobile chair. Then my client noticed that actually she felt like, because she was trying to put her back to sleep, she felt that she was warm. And I was like, oh, okay, she's never warm. She's never been sick since she's been born. I was like, all right, well, give me a sec. Let me attend to my child. The minute I got up just so I can go check on her, she started having a seizure. And like, as a mother, you are trained for everything, you know, your CPR and all that, but everything went out the window. I just panicked. My adrenaline, I have no clue where it was. And I was just freaking out. I was like, what in the world is this? Like, I've heard people have seizures, but when you see it yourself firsthand, it's completely different. Like, I was panicking. My client was trying to calm me down, and I was just like, what do I do? What do I do? I mean, I said call 911, obviously, but just at that point, I kind of like froze, and I couldn't attend to her properly how I was supposed to.
I mean, okay. You're trained. You said you were trained. Well, not every mother is trained to do CPR and all that kind of stuff. No, I mean, they don't really. You probably learned it because of your
That's right.
educator,
So
right?
in
Yeah.
my field, my
Yeah.
line of duty,
Right.
obviously you need to have first aid and CPR, just
Mhm.
because we work with, at the time before working the school board, I worked in a daycare. So therefore you needed to have first aid and CPR. Now, of course, some jobs too, you need to know your first aid and CPR. But yes, once again, not all mothers are trained in CPR, and they don't know what to do. Some of us are old fashioned. We'll just be like, oh, we're going to do this, we're going to do that.
Right.
But so for me, I had that training and I knew what I was supposed to do, but I froze. I didn't do it. All I had in my mind was, I'm just panicking. I'm like, what's going on? Why is she having a seizure? Why is she hot? Like, it was I think it was, well, it was a summer day too, so it was a hot summer day, but she just had on those onesies, so there was like no way she could be 102. That was her temperature at the time. Yeah.
Wow. So from this point, what happened? Like, I mean, your child obviously went to the hospital. She was diagnosed with epilepsy, and then what? What was the next step for you? Like, I mean, obviously they probably started training you for to understand what's actually happening. How did that go?
Well, when we went to the hospital, they were like, oh, this is febrile seizure. It's normal. Some babies have it. And it could be either she had like an infection, teething as well, because, some kids, when they're teething, they get a fever, but definitely not as high as 102, right?
Mm-hmm.
So 102, that's like, I believe it's 39 Celsius or 40 Celsius. So they were just like, oh, it will pass. If it continues, then we have to look more into it in detail. And of course, every single time in my visit, they would ask, is there a family history of, they were asking me if there's a family history of like diabetes and sickle cell and all that. And of course, I don't have that. Thank goodness I know my medical history and my family histories, so I was able to respond. It was unfortunate that I don't know her father's side of the family medical history, so I wasn't able to answer those questions. But eventually, obviously, she was having seizures more often with her fevers.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like, okay, this is obviously because it was reoccurrent, and that's what happens with epilepsy. It was reoccurrent because it stopped from fevers just to now, like, okay, she's having seizures almost every day. It was literally almost every day, from 2 minutes to 5 minutes to 7 minutes to 10. And it just kept getting higher and higher the longer for her seizures. So then they talked about medications to kind of help her with her seizures to see if it'll work. And at that point, at one, she was like a test bunny.
Let me jump in here very quickly. You said she was having seizures on a regular. How did it affect you in terms of being able to work and noticing that this kind of stuff is going to be happening? Like, how did you handle that?
Honestly, to tell you the truth, I don't know. Honestly, the truth is I don't know. But all I could say is I remember just kind of stepping back a little bit. And at that time, I was just praying to God. I was literally just asking God, what is this? What are you trying to teach me? Because at that time too, my relationship with her father was very rocky.
Mm-hmm.
So I was trying to figure out if it had to do something with what was going on and so forth. There were a lot of questions. It was, what if? Did I do this wrong? What did I do? Type of stuff. But I brought it back to the word. That's what I was doing.
So you actually, for a bit, you were blaming yourself. Did you do something wrong? Because I mean, to ask yourself the question, obviously.
Most definitely. And I think, we're humans, right? So we're not perfect, and I'm pretty sure that every human being has done that at one point in their life. So because you wonder, right? You have a child and you want them to have 10 fingers and 10 toes and be their healthiest. So when this happens, especially, I also have a child as well who at that time was 9 years old. So mind you, I've never been in the hospital for him. So this was like a shock for me, like, what the heck is going on, right? Like, I've never been in the hospital for that long. The hospital became my second home in a bad, not a good way to say, but that's what happened.
Yeah. So, okay, I noticed behind you have something about the brain, and this, you said it's something you teach. Yeah, you teach your class right now, correct?
That's right. So I do Mind Up with the children. And it's basically just teaching the kids about their brain and how to calm themselves
Okay,
down.
let me jump in here for a quick second. You do what? Mind up?
Mind Up.
What is mind up?
That's Mind Up is basically helping kids to self-regulate themselves and knowing how they can do it without having an explosive action or just basically self-control
Okay.
for them to understand, when I do this, it's this part of my brain that is doing this, and so forth and so forth. So I teach the kids about the amygdala, the hippocampus, and the prefrontal cortex.
Okay, awesome. You also said in your video that I saw about someone having epilepsy or having a seizure and falling and hitting their head and how serious it can become. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's right. Because, well, it's obviously the brain. So with that, you always have to make sure, especially with someone who has epilepsy, you don't want it to affect them having any longer seizures or any prolonged effects later on in their adult life. Now, some people will grow out of the seizures, some children, some are born with it right away, or some develop it later on, like my daughter who got it at 9 months. So depending, they may grow out of it, but because it is a head injury, so they have to treat it as a severe thing, just because, brain, we have to make sure that there's no bleeding or swelling in the brain once that there was a fall or whatnot, or just any type of movements in the brain. We don't want that because there's already enough movements that's happening when the individual is having a seizure. So to add on a fall, you just picture your brain going back and forth, boom, 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 like a ping pong.
So is there any cure for this?
Unfortunately, there's not a cure. Like some of our other diseases and illness, there is no cure for epilepsy, but you can reduce the seizures by taking your medication properly, accordingly. Or there are some diets as well. I believe there's the kinesthetic or keto diet, but that is more for the adults. And children, they don't really use it as much, but making sure you take your medication, and just trying to live a happy, healthy life, it will minimize the seizure a little bit.
I don't know if you can tell me this, but I'm going to ask the question and you could just choose whether to answer. Sure. At 9 months, your daughter started this journey. How old is she now?
She is 5.5, so she'll be 6 very soon.
Wow, so pretty much 5 years of this.
Yeah.
Is she any better now than she was before?
When it started, it was worse. Then we had like a calm moment, a calm wave, and then it got worse. So with certain seizures, there's no triggers. Some people will have triggers and some people won't. And in her case, she doesn't have a trigger. And what I mean by trigger is some people if someone is sick around them or they're sick, it affects their immune system, and then they may get a seizure, or just the environment, or just different stuff going on. When you say
sick, someone is sick, you mean like with a cold or something like that?
A cold, the slightest cold. So like with her, when she started in the beginning, the slightest cold that her classmate had, that affected her immune system. Because children are still growing, especially at that age. They haven't developed all their stuff, right? So they just get everything, right? We see that when kids are in daycare, they get everything. So for her, in her case, was if her classmate had a cold and runny nose and everything, she'll come back, she has a fever, and I knew there's no way I can prevent it. I'll give her Advil and Tylenol, but I knew that sooner or later she was going to have a seizure.
Wow. I don't know how you do it, but being a
By the grace of God, that's all I can
yeah,
say.
being a single mom and everything else like that. Now, your background, you were you born here or you were born in Congo?
I'm Congolese, so I'm from the Democratic Republic of the Congo,
Hmm.
formerly Zaire.
Okay. Did you ever remember hearing things like that in your homeland?
No, so that's the thing, right? As an African or a person of color, we have certain diseases and illnesses, but we don't know the names of them, right?
Hmm.
I'm sure coming here to Canada, we're like, oh, there's this and that, and then we're like, oh, we have it. But when it comes to epilepsy, epilepsy is not known in Congo. It may be known to other parts of Africa, but in Congo, it's not known. But mind you, what they call it a different name, which I don't think that's what it is, which they call it maladie ndeke. So it's like they say ndeke is a bird,
Hmm.
so it's an illness of a bird. I don't know how that makes sense, but
Repeat
that's
that
what
name
they call
again.
it.
Malawi Ndeke?
Maladie
Maladi
yandeke.
Yandeke.
Yeah.
Malandi
So I
Yandeke.
think when the bird is sick or something, I guess a bird seizes or however.
Oh.
I don't know, but that's what we know it as. So there's no epilepsy in Congo as far as I know.
So there's a possibility that no, I'm not gonna say that. I'm not gonna say that. I have this theory about babies given these injections at babies when they're born. You see them injecting them with something. I have a problem with that, but that's my own personal thing, right?
There's no there's no cause. There's no known cause, but about 60% of people will have it because due to an accident or it's also genetic. So something in the DNA as well may affect it that you may have epilepsy.
That I understand from an accident having a seizure because it's part of your brain
Hmm.
being affected and so forth.
Yeah,
But when you're talking about a baby
yeah,
who no cause to start having that something, nothing happens just like that.
yeah.
Something triggers that. So anyways, that was my little tidbit, and somebody's gonna get me, my producer might probably get me for that and say, why you just say that? But that's my thing.
That's
my
okay.
my my son also says to me, Dad, I says I really don't, because I don't remember babies home right away as soon as you get them to start giving them injections as a baby. You give them some time to
Hmm.
grow, then they get the different things. Anyways, today is what we known as International Women's Day, and
Hmm.
basically that will represent you in a full sense for what you
Thank
do.
you.
So happy International Women's Day to you and
Thank
for what
you.
you've been doing. Listen, I want to thank you so much for sharing your story with us today. It's indeed a pleasure having you with us, and man, I just don't know how you deal with it, but you do, and I want to thank God for you, and I pray that as she gets older, it gets less and less and less, and God bless you as you go through this journey, and I mean this journey will lead you to something else. God knows what.
Only he knows,
That's
right?
right.
My story and her story is written in the palm of her hands. So his hands, I should say.
Hmm.
So I'm just going through it, and by the grace of God, we shall see.
Before I let you go, if you were to speak to a young mother who just had her baby,
Hmm.
don't know anything about this, don't not even thinking about this, and started experiencing this, what is one of the things you would say to her, how to prepare herself for something like this?
Well, I'll tell her to be calm. I mean, of course, you're going to freak out, but try your best to be calm because that little one needs you, right?
Hmm.
They have no way of communicating aside from crying and you know all the stuff that babies do. So be calm. But I would also say make sure you have a great support system. Hopefully, you have a great relationship with your family. I mean, some people don't. So if you're able to have a great support system with your family, then they can help you through prayers. And that's one of my thing. I'm grateful to have my parents with me and my siblings that we are able to pray every single day for my daughter, right? Whether something happens or not, we pray and we celebrate the moments that she doesn't have a seizure. Like we will go at least a week, she won't have a seizure, and we celebrate that because that's a milestone. Because eventually, what we want is no seizures. We don't want to go to the hospital, and of course, no medication. So I can't wait for that day to happen. And I know God will supply my every need. But I would definitely say stay calm, make sure you have a great support system, and of course, research found organizations of epilepsy wherever you are, so that you can get that support. Because I know they provide so many resources, especially when it comes to like medication. That is costly if you don't have benefits. Trust me, I've been there, where literally this medication costs $300, and once I was working, I was only paying $1. Huge difference from 300 to $1.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
Awesome. One of the things that I know a little bit about your daughter is that in spite of the fact that with this happening, is she has an amazing brain.
She does. She's very smart.
Yes.
She's very, very smart.
Because she also knows how many languages?
She knows a total of 4 languages.
There you
So
go.
there's English, my native language, which is Lingala, French, which that is what we speak at home, but it's also back and forth with Lingala, and as well as Portuguese.
Nice. So
Yeah.
it tells you that even though epilepsy, may, according to what they say, may affect the brain, or some kind of a symptoms, as they're saying, what is it called? A central nervous system neurological
right.
disorder. It still has not stopped her ability to learn, and I thank God for that.
No, I thank God every day. I mean, she's so active. She loves to dance, loves to sing. I mean, you can look at her and you won't know that she has epilepsy. And that's the thing too, right? There's making sure that we don't label our kids or anyone at all that, oh, this person has so and so forth, because she looks completely fine, but you won't know she's fighting a battle.
Amen. Thank you so much for your time, and thank you so much for sharing. And God bless you. Looking forward to hearing the results of it as she gets older. What is going to be next? Hopefully, I'm still is still around, and I can still finally get an opportunity to speak with her and to see how she personally is doing. Thank you so much, Nancy, for your time.
Thank you.
The Praise Life Morning Show with Clairmont Humphrey.
Hey, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Streaming Praise Radio, and like us on Facebook, streamingpraiseradio.com. Follow us on Instagram and Twitter, SPR Live FM. Thank you so much for following us, and thank you so much for joining us. You want to hear this program again, you know where to find us, right here on YouTube, Streaming Praise Radio.